The other thing I will say is that, so you think if women ran the world, there would be less war, fewer wars. Really? Have you ever seen a group of women? Have you ever seen how well we get along? You're gonna say, oh yeah, but we talk, we don't fight. I don't know what your experience was, but my experience in junior high and high school, I saw way more physical fights between girls than I did between guys. They tend to be the initiators physically. They do. And I don't know where this idea of women are so peaceful and they never hit anybody, or, I mean, just go on YouTube and do a search. They're all over the place causing a ruckus and starting to, throwing the first punch or throwing something across the room at somebody. That's what they do. They absolutely do. To try and suggest that women are peaceful and less violent, especially the women that are in this day and age, it's not the case. It's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale. Especially when you consider that biologically, women think with their feelings more than men do. And when you think with your feelings and emotion more than logic and rationale and measure, you're much more likely to get into a physical altercation with someone else. And you're much more likely to be bothered, for it to be instigated, because you're more sensitive. You can't just let it go. The other thing about women is that we tend to be all up in each other's business and want to be bossy. We've all seen the scene in Dallas, Texas in November of 1963, I think it was 62, 63, where JFK gets ended, right? And what does Jackie do? She starts to climb off the back of the car to get away. I have studied and been interested in this case since I was a teenager. I've seen that video a million times. Still can't remember the year because, MS brain, whatever. And it took a red-pilled man to say, look at that, she's just leaving at his weakest point. And I was like, that's exactly what she's doing. Think about it. There are bullets flying. The love of your life is sitting next to you, and he's injured. And your first instinct is, bye. So I put myself in that situation. If I were Jackie Kennedy and the man I love, a specific man that I do love, is sitting right next to me, and that happened, I played it in my brain to sort of see, well, what's my reaction? And immediately I was like, my reaction is I'm going towards him. I'm putting my hands on his shoulders and I'm saying his name, we'll use JFK's name. John, I'm trying to, are you, what's going on, right? Now, because I love him and I've now been awakened and red-pilled and understand what love really is and all of that, and I would not be trying to get away from him. Hi, welcome to Feminism on Trial. It's been a while since I made a video. Things have been fine. I'm fine. A lot of changes in my life. Because that's not, for me, that's not truth. Where do I get my point of view? Where do I decide what's the proper thing and why are we in the mess we're in? And being a Christian and being a biblical Christian, and I mean that word gets thrown around, the word Christian. It doesn't mean oh, I go to church and I this or whatever. I don't go to church. I'm not going to a 501c3 organization that basically feminism has infiltrated. And that's another video that I want to make because it needs to be said. But again, How far was I willing to go? Was I willing to call out Christians? Was it Christians? Was I willing to call out churches and say, you're a bunch of liars? You know, you're actually one of the biggest problems. Am I willing to go there? And so basically the last few months has been like, okay, I got to get the courage. I got to get the courage to just stand up against these things and not be afraid to be the lone voice in all of this. Because a lot of my views, nobody shares. You know, this will probably just, you know, go nowhere. But I've always, ever since I was a little girl, I've always been like, I'm going to say it anyways, even if people aren't going to listen. It just irks me if I don't. So I'm going forward with my Christian background, which guides me. And so that's going to come up, and I will refer to it. And you don't have to be a Christian to see that the things that I say make sense and are true. But I think personal stories are quite powerful. You can look up statistics other places. You can learn that men are the victims of domestic violence on the same rate as women are. You can look up that women initiate 80% of divorces. You can look this stuff up. I am not the information channel. You know, that's not me. I am the let's get real and let's be personal and let's really talk about it. Not in numbers, not in graphs. Not that information isn't necessary, but like let's go deeper than that. You know, and let's go to the root of this problem and let's call it out. That's why it's feminism on trial. Let's call it out where it is, where it lurks, where it's poisoning, which is everywhere. But let's see how. Let's examine that. And if that comes to my own life or people I know, I decided I'm here for it. I decided I'll go there because I think you guys know, like, I'm a horse girl, and I have worked with horses and stuff, and we're a little different. If you've ever known an equestrian, you know we're a little different, and I don't do things half-ass. And I came to this sort of precipice where I was like, well, are we going to do this? Or are we not going to do this? Are we prepared to alienate people? Are we prepared to piss people off? Are we prepared to talk about God and the Bible and the roots of all of this? Am I prepared for that? And doesn't matter if I am or if I'm not, because it needs to be said. I know it's the truth, and I'm either gonna do this or I'm not. All's fair in love and war, as they say. So, number 6, I don't mind that you have kids. He says he doesn't mind, but once you drop the kids bomb on him, he's nowhere to be seen. Even the FBI can't find him. Resist the urge to text. Why are you so far into a relationship that all of a sudden you're like, I have kids? This is the problem with dating. This is the problem with like dating, where you're like, I'm going to tell him this amount of information, I'm going to tell him this amount of information and hope he likes me. None of it's real. All you're doing is practicing breaking up with people. All you're doing is practicing being your best self. Just be like, these are my values, this is my character, you know, let's get to know each other non-sexually, non-romantically, because most of marriage is non-romantic. So if you think, oh, well, we fell in love in, a beautiful beach in Mexico, don't think that that's a snapshot of like what your life is going to be with that person, because that's not life. Life is this past weekend. Life is, I thought about this. I'm going to make a different video about this separately, but life is, and marriage is, it's literally, it's having diarrhea. It's falling down. It's making mistakes. It's saying things you don't mean. And it's bad breath in the morning. It's all those things. It's not roses and trips. And it's not those things. It's who are you going to love? Who are you going to decide to love when you don't like them? And the castle was going to appear, blah, blah, blah. But it was just a horse. Remember how grateful Ferdinand was for that horse? He didn't say, oh, it's just a horse. Oh, this is all I get. And he had to wait all the way till he was 14. He was poor all the way up until that. He had to watch all his friends have everything. And yet he waited. And then he had the horse. And he was so grateful. It's important to be grateful for what we have. And to be patient when we don't have things. Patient and grateful. The queen, however, oh Lord have mercy. The queen, however, couldn't stand the king because he didn't have a nose. We have now began the mushroom trip portion of the fairy tale. This happens always. And I'm just letting you know if this is your first time here. Okay. He didn't have a nose. On the other hand, she loved faithful Ferdinand very much. Uh-oh. One day, when all the noblemen of the court were gathered together, the queen said she knew some tricks. She said, in fact, that she could cut off a head and put it back on, and she wanted a volunteer to demonstrate her skill. I will hold my thoughts until we find out exactly what's up with this woman. But if you've read any of the fairy tales, you know not to trust her. Nobody wanted to be first, but upon unfaithful Ferdinand's prompting, oh no, faithful Ferdinand felt obliged to volunteer. The queen cut off his head and put it back on again, and it healed immediately. Oh, thank God. Be a lot of clips from it. Okay, number one. So this is what she thinks the men's reasons are for not dating a single mother. And this is clearly either a British or Canadian or Australian. It's an English-speaking country, not America, because we're using mum. I don't know that that's relevant, but I'm always thinking of demographic and location and etc. because I think it helps me identify who they are. Do you see her back there, by the way? Do y'all see her? That's the little munchkin that causes trouble during the videos, and she's about to start messing with that blanket because I'm paying attention to you guys and not her. I'm just gonna say, I know, ankle biter, little dog. Look, I got her as literally a rescue. Guy who worked for me brought her to me, told me in broken Spanish, she's gonna die if we don't, and I don't take dogs to the pound. So I had all my farm dogs and this little thing. So that's why I have a little, aw, now look at her. That's why I have a little one. She doesn't know she's not a yapper because the dogs around her weren't yappers. She was raised by border collies and German shepherds. So that's what she thinks she is. Anyway, that was a little side note there. Little Lola making her appearance. Anyway, she helps keep me sane. And yes, I mother her. I know that I do. because I don't have children. Number 1, I'm too good for a single mom. Okay, so that would be why men don't want to date a single mother. Well, maybe they are.